What's the best, scariest, most interesting internet rabbit hole you have found? There's this well-known playlist on YouTube called Important Videos. It has about 300 videos that are mostly short and stupidly funny. I was an active Mormon and researching something for a meeting. I came across a website that had great historical information and didn't at first appear to be an anti-Mormon site. I read that the restoration of the priesthood doesn't have an actual date, and immediately I thought that was BS, because since I was a child I had read in church publications all about the restoration. I could recite dates, names, places, and what these great religious leaders were thinking at the time. Yeah, about that. This website showed strong evidence that it was all a lie. But I was sure they were wrong, so I set out to prove they had the wrong facts. I stared with the church's publications, but dug deeper. I searched for source material on college websites. I found journals and other writings on archive.org. I found websites that pulled together information from a dozen sources and assembled it in a way that was terrifying to read. In 2 weeks of near constant searching, I went from a faithful member to feeling sick, crying and wanting to tear my own eyes out. Then came anger and that feeling of betrayal. I spent a couple hours nearly every day for the next year doing my best to prove everything wrong. I prayed, studied, fasted, and in the end I had to be spiritually honest. I had been lied to. Edit. I finally understand the statement, "Rip inbox." I have been responded to dozens of comments. I am doing my best while pretending to work. Edit 2. My marriage ended after we both found out the truth. After reflection, we were not a good match. In the Mormon faith, you don't have sex prior to marriage, so you end up with 22-year-olds that date but don't have sex. This leads to getting married so you can have sex, because having sex before marriage keeps you out of the temple, where you are saved. So, your salvation is based upon getting to the temple. Without the fear of losing our eternal salvation and family, the marriage crumbled. This is the realest story here. Everything else is about memes and dreams. But this was a genuine rabbit hole that dismantled your life. I hope you're living well, pal. There's this series on YouTube called the Marble Olympics. I'm on mobile, so I'll link it later. But this guy basically made different events and puts teams of marbles through them in color. Commentates, the production value isn't bad considering what it is, and you will start rooting for a team, monsieur. I found out I had a stalker from high school when I was in community college and decided to Google my name for some dumb reason. I don't have a very common last name, but there are still a few other people out there with my first and last name. I was like 10 pages deep in Google, place many do not ever go to, and I found an old tripod site that had my name in the URL followed by one of my old AIM screen names. So I clicked it and was taken to a very basic page that had a ton of pictures stolen from my MySpace and others that had to have been taken without me knowing. Things like me out working on my car or on the trampoline with my siblings in our yard. It was really weird, and I had no clue who it was until I scrolled all the way down and realized it was the girl I dated for a few months in spring of our sophomore year. She had a screenshot of a AIM conversation where I said I liked you way more than others or something on it, and she took that and ran with it. What happened? Did you report her? Confront her? I hope not, but college kids can be dumb sometimes. I need a resolution to this story. Well, this was like '07 and sophomore year was '03, '04, so I had to dig through Facebook to find her, and when I did, she was a few states away and in a relationship, so I never bothered her about it, and I'm sure that it has been taken down now that tripod has gone defunct. I once had my home Linux server hacked while I was away on winter holiday. Logging in remotely from my grandparents' house, I noticed that the server was behaving oddly. Took a look at the log files and found them truncated. So sent a shutdown command so I could do forensics when I got home. What I ended up finding really did feel like swallowing the red pill. Someone had hacked the server using a recent sendmail exploit and resold it to someone who was using it to host an egg-drop IRC bot. I logged into the IRC channel that it had been holding open and found a bunch of people sending short messages like CCs or root. About 5 minutes in, a longer message comes along. Some guy is annoyed with a trade he has made. Someone gave him a bad set of data and he wants to make his own data worthless in return before the buyer can get full use of it. So on my screen there is suddenly a splat of information about some guy who lives in Texas. Credit card, phone number, street address. And the first guy is urging everyone to buy stuff as quickly as possible before the credit limit is hit. Feeling I was fucked, I disconnected ASAP, left an anonymous phone message on said Texas individual's answering machine advising them to check their Visa charges, and hope that my lack of foresight in not setting up an IP proxy or anything to hide my own identity wouldn't have either the FBI or organized crime breathing down my neck in a few days. Damn, makes me feel really computer illiterate reading this. Someone made his computer into a chat room for some really shady stuff. Edit. My most upvoted post is now a hypersimplification of a tech story. Serial killers on Wikipedia. LAKEY. I first heard about this the other day through an article in a newspaper and a thread on World News about it, and I still cannot wrap my head around this. These videos are so weird. Like some real-life creepypasta shit. I think what makes it so disturbing is that nobody can discern a good reason for the videos to exist in the first place. The ad revenue thing makes sense. But you could achieve that with a wide range of content that doesn't involve such fucking weird themes. Kids aren't enticed by the inappropriate titles or scenes. They click because it's cartoon characters with bright colors. So why the fuck are all these videos full of scat, gore and weird fetish stuff? The best reason I can think of is to make you pay for other services. Hulu and Netflix wouldn't let this on, but YouTube has the means to be exploited. Subreddit simulator. It's nothing but bots talking to each other using Markov chains of the subreddits they represent. It's hilarious and also kind of disturbing. All these bots just firing off responses trying to seem like people. Gets even weirder if you try to imagine it as a physical place. A bunch of physical representations of subreddits spouting off what sounds like gibberish to each other. Undeterred that they make no sense. Reading through that feels like you're having a stroke. They're words that you recognize, but they make zero sense in whatever order they're in. But then sometimes it all crystallizes and you read a coherent thought. But it's not a thought. It's a bot guessing each word based on the previous one. It has an amazing amount of content and creativity and also none. Almost like a word version of seeing faces in buildings or aliens attempting to learn English. I somehow ended up on Reddit. Not sure how, or if it qualifies as scariest or most interesting. Edit. Typo. Early in the 90s I reached a site on the eastern coast of Newfoundland that simply read, "You have reached the end of the internet. Turn around and go back." I don't think it's the same one. But www.gomissyourcom used to say something like, "Congratulations. You have reached the last page of the internet. Now turn off your computer and go outside for cool stuff." Wikipedia's list of unusual articles. For a mixture of strange, sad, hilarious and frightening. Sometimes all three at the same time. Fundies say the darndest things got me through a lot of slow times back in the day. There was one thread in particular which achieved glory when the originally quoted poster turned up and ended up performing an online exorcism on an FSTD chair to expel the demon that was apparently making her lesbian. But in general there was plenty of gold. Flat earthers, spaced any heirs, mooned any heirs, disbelief in DNA, disbelief in primates, all sorts, greater than mooned any heirs. Do you mean moon landing any heirs? Or are there seriously people who don't believe the fucking moon exists? If so, I need to fall down that rabbit hole. Popol, don't believe in primates. Lol. Yeah, I got so distracted by the mountaineers I didn't even notice the primate thing. Definitely weirder. Cicada 3301. A few years ago I developed pneumonia. I was out of commission for about a week. My kids were at school. My wife was at work and I was at home just trying to not stop breathing and keep as warm as possible. I saw an article about some member of the British royal family. Then I said, I wonder if any other countries really have active royal families. So I started Googling and began researching the Norwegian royals. Then I found myself on the Wikipedia article for Ari Ben. It said he was a baptized member of the Christian community, Having done quite a bit of reading on the subject of religion, I was surprised I had never heard of this group. This was a massive rabbit hole. You learn about the Christian community and that leads you to Rudolf Steiner, who leads you to biodynamics, Waldorf education and anthroposophy. The bonus was that I felt like I learned a lot about something I was unaware of. The downside was that the next week I went back to work having dedicated myself to the subject full time and didn't know what to do with all of that knowledge or information. OpenSecrets.org. Look up your legislators' donors. Then go to govtrack.us and look at the legislation they sponsor, co-sponsor and vote on. Surprise! I found my congressman pushed continuing a Fed tax break on soda ash. I called him AMD. His office said it was for jobs and pressure from China but will only cost $30 million. The last time it was passed they also did an impact study. No extra jobs. Pressure? Lol. They raised their prices 60% over that 4-year period and were an extra $1.5 billion more profitable. To add insult to injury, it wound up costing $150 million as mining operations simply shifted to federal lands for the break. Who was his number 2 donor? You can already guess. The United States of America in one paragraph. I needed an engrossing distraction from my anxiety, so I started listening to a true crime podcast called Case File. It's really good, and did the trick. I would go to the subreddit after an episode. Though it's not very active, I stumbled on a post about the most horrifying case you'd ever read. That rabbit hole led me to David Parker Ray, who was never on Case File. He sexually tortured dozens of women and had a video he'd make them watch when captured. After reading that transcript of that video, I'm done with true crime podcasts for a while. It's literally the worst thing I've ever read. Yes, I have read the transcript also, wish I never had. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.